Hey losers, welcome to my second of my 50 favorite horror novels. This one is a really old-time favorite. I had such a fun time reading this again. We're talking about Goshin Takami's Battle Royale. This came out in 1999, and contrary to my belief that the novel was an adaptation of the manga is actually an adaptation of the novel, which I didn't know. I thought it was the other way around. So that's just one fun fact I have for you today. So I was first introduced to the story through the manga. It was the first manga I'd ever read. I previously kind of thought that manga was for weirdos. I thought that the content was for children until I read Battle Royale, and I was like, holy fuck. I think I was 15 when I read that for the first time, and then I was 16 when I bought this copy of this book. I honestly can't believe it is not more beat up, because I used to carry this in my backpack from class to class, read during study hall, because that's exactly what I used my study hall time to do, was to fucking read, and everyone thought I was a weirdo, I know for sure, but it's what I liked. Now this was published in 1999, but it was done around 1997, and Takami just like couldn't find somebody who wanted to pick it up because of how controversial it was. There is lots of gore in this, and really just the idea of junior high students killing each other, being forced to kill each other, was very disturbing. Of course, it had some controversy at first. Now I think we think of it as rather tame compared to some things that are out there. But of course, this was published in Japan and not America. This is a story probably we've all heard of before. I think the idea of this was really popularized when Hunger Games came out. I mean, I'm not gonna say she plagiarized anything, but it would not surprise me one bit if she had heard of this, either the book, the manga, the film adaptations, and, you know, had a little bit of an idea from that, because this is about an authoritarian government that does this thing called the program. And a group of 15-year-olds, a class of 15-year-olds is randomly selected to participate in the program, and they get brought to a deserted village. In this case, it takes place on an island. They are forced to kill each other. They're each given a bag. The bag has some provisions and a random weapon in it. Some of these are very helpful. For example, one student gets an Uzi. Some are, you know, automated weapons, and some are as silly as like a fork, or something that might help you more with survival, rather than actually hurting somebody. There's a large variety of these weapons, and they're forced to kill each other until there's only one survivor left. This survivor, however, gets a pension and also a like autographed picture of their leader. They have a name for him, I can't remember what it is. They just gotta go on with their life after killing all their classmates. Salem's yelling at Fing Fing right now. In this story, we're following, for the most part, this young man named Shuya Nanahara, and he's trying to protect a girl in his class that his best friend had a crush on. So it's like the two of them, they have kind of an unlikely third that ends up meeting up with them, someone that you wouldn't expect starting out, and they're really conflicted. They're like, should we try to get a group of like passive players together, or are we gonna have to like kill people to stay alive? They're very conflicted about this. Of course, they don't want to kill their classmates. They think that this is wrong. But right out the gate, some of their classmates are killing others. So they know it's going to be hard to trust anybody. It's going to be hard to even speak to anybody. You know, you get close to them, they're going to try to kill you, because it's like kill or be killed. And the story really follows every single person. Like, you see the death of every single child in this book. Now, there are 42 students at the beginning of this story, and it's hard to keep track of who is who. Some of the names, as somebody who is like not a native Japanese resident, or, you know, somebody who's fluent in Japanese or anything like that, like I read manga and I watch anime occasionally, but like, you know, sometimes as a text, it's like, who is that again? So one thing that I really appreciated about going through the manga series is that they have a roster. Of course, also when you're looking at faces, it's much easier to tell people apart and know who's who, instead of being like, who's that again? So I think my knowledge of that really helped when I have read the book, because there are a lot of moving parts here, and there will be parts where we're with Shuya and his companions, and then we jump to somebody else, and you know something bad is gonna happen, of course, because otherwise why the fuck would we be following them? And you know, it's much easier when you're reading the manga to flip back to a roster, and it's it does this thing that Hunger Games, of course, riffed on, where they have forbidden zones and they have announcements every couple of hours saying who died, and so, you know, things like that. You're like, oh yeah, who's that again? You can flip to this roster. I believe, if I'm remembering right, like at those announcements in the manga, oh, I can't find it, they have the roster again. It'll be like, this many dead, this many still to go, kind of a thing. They, you know, announce the names of the people who've died, things like that. So it's like, I really love the novel. I think that the novel is excellent, but I also feel like the novel was somewhat of a jumping off point to the manga. The manga is more graphic, both with like explicit content and also with the violence. Of course, you see it on page. It's much more gnarly. You get, I feel like, a little more of the backstory of the important players in this. And there's even just like parts, is there one in this first one here, where it'll be like, so-and-so, and then it has like this little picture of them and says some stuff about them. It has a map. I know there's one in the fourth. See, it'll be like, I don't know if I can show some of the content on this other page. It'll be like, Shoko Kawada, he is this tall, weighs this much, does he have extracurricular activities he's into, what are his special skills, his weaknesses, and the weapon he got. So it's just, there's a little more razzle dazzle with the manga. So I feel like start with the novel, see how you like it, and then from there, if you're really into this story, one, watch the movie. I would recommend not watching a dubbed version, because it, like, the tone is so unserious, the tone of the voice actors compared to like what's actually happening. I tried to watch that in October, and I've seen like the subbed, I've watched it with subtitles before, and it's a great flick, but like the dub is so it does not match the tone of the story. So yeah, watch the movie. There's 2 of them, and then if you can, get your hands on the manga. Like, I would so recommend it. I know that there are places online where you can read it. You know, the thing about that is like, is this easily accessible in the United States? Kind of no. I don't even know, is it still in print? I don't know. All the copies I have are used copies. So no matter what, the author kind of isn't, and like normally would say absolutely do not fucking do this, but you can find it online for free. Although then the, you know, author and the translators do not get a cut of that. But also, if you're buying a used copy, they kind of don't either. And it's not like easily accessible. I don't think you could go to your library and get this. Are there e-copies? That's kind of a good question. I don't know. But there are also like, a couple spin-offs that I didn't know about. There is Enforcers. I don't know. There's like, I think like 3 separate things that don't have as many volumes. I believe this one has 15 or 16, like the first one, and then like there's like one that's just 1 volume, one that's like 2, and one that's 4, or something like that. So yeah, it still just says that Kosha Takumi is like writing his 2nd book, and it's like, okay, well, it's been almost 30 years. It's been 25 years. Do you think maybe we could see what you're doing? I'm curious to see what he could come up with. But yeah, this has great themes of rebelling against an unjust government, survival, betrayal. It really makes you think, like, what would I do in this situation? There is just like a wide variety. It's not just people flat out murdering each other. There's so much that goes on in this book, so many moving pieces, so many deaths that are like so fucking sad. Some great bad guys in it. The end, explosive. It's just such a great story, and I feel like every time I read it, I pick up something new. And this time I'm really thinking about the government. And how far do we let things go before we realize that they've gone too far? Because it's sometimes a slow creeping crawl. And sometimes you wake up and you find out that the government has cut federal aid. And you're like, what in the fuck is happening here? So we're not forcing our children to murder each other yet. Hopefully it doesn't get there, but who knows? So, yeah, I just, what a strange time to read this novel. Anyway, that's the 2nd of my 50 favorite horror novels. I'm glad that I could share this one with you. It's really an excellent, fast-paced read, and I'd love to know if you've read this, if you would consider reading this after my review. I'd love to know. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later. Goodbye!